What's up, PB Cashville? It's your boy Cashew, and right beside me is your boy
PB.
And today we are going to be talking about American Sniper. Hit it! What up, PB Cashville? It's your boy Cashew, and right beside me is your boy
PB.
It's been a hot minute since I've been in here.
It has been a hot minute because I've been doing this like by myself, and I've been very, very lonely, and it sucks. It stinks.
You know what you just made me thought of?
What?
Akon's song "Lonely." Well, it's not. That's a sample of another song for "Lonely." Who was the original one that made the song?
Oh, like lonely.
Yeah.
I'm so lonely. I think Bobby Darin. I think.
Was it Bobby Darin?
I don't know. Mom and Dad aren't here, so they're downstairs. So I don't know if they can say, "Hey, who did this?" So if you know who it is, put it in the comments and say you guys don't know your stuff, and it's Bobby Darin or something like that. We have the internets. Let me look in the internets to see who wrote "Lonely."
Because I know Akon did the cover of it, which was an awesome cover.
The thing I hate about Akon is that he'll do two things in a song and he'll get like full credit for it. I don't get it.
No. Akon has his ways of him and Neil are two underrated artists. I feel like. I know we're supposed to talk about American Sniper, but it's just randomly. But they're like underrated artists that I feel like they write songs that are hits.
Okay. Bobby Vinton. I was totally off. It's Bobby Vinton.
Bobby
Vinton is the person who's originally sang "Lonely." It's actually, I think, called. It's not "Lonely." It's Mr. Lonely. Okay. So, goodness, we are way off topic. Well, you got to forgive us because we haven't had this opportunity to have like banter like crazy for a really long time. So, yeah. So give us a break, I guess.
So if you look, I have been watching, and I've seen that PB has been doing a lot of solos. And yeah. I have seen that we're doing it now in the what do you call this one? The living room, the garage.
This used to be a garage, and so shout outs to Manuel and his crew because this just used to be just stuff where we threw stuff in, but now it is a very good space. So really, really happy that we've got this particular space.
And we got some new addition to our little wall over here, like our little TV. First of all, there's a TV right here that's big.
There is, but and we also have. Why don't you bring it up from because I think I'm blocking it. So okay, just bring it up from the front.
So we'll start off with Wait, just move over a little bit.
I'm moving
this way.
There we go. This way.
Yeah. So we have Cyndaquil, we have Pikachu, we have Rowlet, and we also have this. It's a gold chicken.
Gold chicken.
You're probably wondering, what is that gold chicken? Well, apparently, I work at Chick-fil-A now, again. So I have 2 jobs, and I got Employee of the Month.
Oh, look at that.
For October.
Making that money.
So they gave me a gold chicken. I just said, you know what? I feel like that would be just pretty cool just to put on the wall for now. But we are going to have something, actually, do you want to tell them what is that we got?
We have a tapestry. Because we're trying to like do a lot of really interesting things here just to kind of make the background look a little bit better. So yes, we have a tapestry now, and it's gonna be good. Gonna be something to enhance the background because we're still trying to figure out how to make a decent studio, and we're working on that. So
yes,
but yeah. So but the thing that I really like having it here is because the sound quality is much better than the places where we used to do it.
I had this conversation with
PB.
And he always wants to argue with me about, no, I don't think it'll be good.
I already gave, okay, hold on, PB Cashville. I already gave you vindication for this. I already said Matthew was right, and he still got to go, yeah, I told you so.
No, because we always have arguments about this, and it's like,
So, I also have a cool thing. This right here, this right here is an obsidian dagger from Mexico. This is the same kind of obsidian daggers that the Mayans used to use, or the Aztecs used to use. So it's pretty cool. It's made out of obsidian, and it's really neat. So just wanted to show you guys that I have a cool thing too. So yeah, that's my cool thing.
Oh, I forgot. I also got John Starks over here. I said Stockton. John Starks over here.
Yeah, John Stockton. Actually, the sad thing about John Stockton, he was one of the best, one of those players that was really, really good and did not win anything. Yeah. Sadly, I wonder how he feels now that the Utah Jazz or no, not the Utah. Denver's the one who's won, right? Utah's never won, right?
He wasn't. No, he never won.
No, but the Utah Jazz have never won.
I don't think they ever won
a playoff, right? Okay. Interesting. So yeah, but yeah, that's John Starks. Is he still in coach of the Westchester Knicks?
I'm not sure. I know he goes to a lot of Knicks games.
Yeah, because there was a time where he actually was coach of the Westchester Knicks. Allen Houston is actually, I think, the GM of the Westchester Knicks.
That sounds right.
We need to go to one. I heard. You know how much it costs to go to a Westchester Knicks?
$5 or $10.
$10. Yeah. It's so crazy. And I think if you go as a group, and if you're a church group, Allen Houston will give his testimony.
Ah, that's cool.
It's actually pretty neat. Yeah, because one of my buddies from Manhattanville, James Philpelli, he's a season ticket holder for Westchester Knicks, and he told me that if you go there and you let them know that you're a church group, they'll set that up for you.
That's cool.
We should do something to consider. You guys, youth pastors and out there. So easy trip to Westchester. So yeah. Anything else that's been cool in your life, Matthias?
It's just been a busy week. Like not a busy month actually.
Sure.
Just been busy. Working, mostly working, which is fine with me.
Sweet.
Everything's just getting crazy right now, like money wise. So I needed a second job, basically.
Yeah, Christmas time is coming. I need to try to get ahead of the what's it called, the debt and everything like that. I think that's where we're all at. So yeah, just try to be better with your money, guys.
Yeah.
Out there. Don't spend more than what your means is, and don't overuse your credit cards. That's financial advice for free. So. What is today? You're probably watching this not on the actual day, but today is Veterans Day. We had a completely different schedule and a different idea for it. We were actually going to review something else, but then I said, we need to review something that is in step with Veterans Day. So what we decided was to review the great American movie, American Sniper. So right off the bat, I think that both you and I are in absolute agreement that this was an awesome movie. So, Matt, why don't you just give us a quick synopsis? Spoiler alert, because we're going to be discussing a lot of spoilers here. If you've never seen this movie, stop the video and watch it now.
It's based on a true story.
And so you should know about most of this. And also from the parental guide, parents, don't let your kids watch it because there's a lot of adultish themes and heavy military violence in it, and there's a lot of cursing. So make sure your kids kind of are out of the room when they're watching it. But if you accidentally watch it while they're, then you better really, really explain stuff and let them know things about it. I know that's kind of like a shocking way of getting educated about some of these things, but parents, use your discretion. Older kids, guard yourselves with it because there's a lot of things there that you need to kind of guard yourself against. Language, especially. Drinking is also another thing in there. But the picture as a whole, I think is something that there's something you can learn from, and I think is a good piece of not only just film, but I think it raises awareness for things, and we'll be discussing that in a bit. So, Matt, why don't you just give a quick synopsis of what the story is all about?
Okay. Well, first of all, I say thank you for all the veterans out there.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you for your service. We don't really. It feels like we don't appreciate veterans like we should.
Yeah, I agree.
And just thank you for your service. Thank you for serving for our country. So basically, the movie is based on a true story about Chris Kyle, who, when he was a kid, his father was a deacon and a Sunday school teacher, and he also was a good hunter. And Chris Kyle was a good hunter, and he wanted to be like a cowboy.
Yes, correct.
At first, and then then like something changed his mind where he wanted to go into the SEALs.
No, yeah, there was the bombing of the American embassies, and he saw it on TV, and he said, "You know what? They attacked us," and so he decided to join the Navy first. And then the recruiter said, "It looks like you're a warrior, so you may want to go into the SEAL program."
Yeah, and so he was doing that, and then what was it? He was getting, I think he was engaged at the time when
married.
Was it married?
Married. Yeah, I think he's married.
When 9/11 happened, I thought he was engaged.
I think he was either married or engaged because, like, right after 9/11 happens, I think he gets married or something like that.
Yeah, he gets married, and then next thing you know, they get deployed.
Yeah, for his first tour.
Yep. And so Chris Kyle, they call him the Legend.
Mm-hmm.
He was a sniper.
Mm-hmm.
And he, if I wasn't mistaken, he killed around 160 plus men, like just in general.
Yep.
I think one crazy thing was, and this was in the beginning of the movie, and then it went to this first of him, his first kill, if I'm not mistaken,
correct,
was a kid.
It was a kid.
And what was crazy about it is like when you look at them watching the movie, it's just like. And they're in a different country. They're in the Middle East. You're like, that's how it is in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy. Like the parents will have their kids do things that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
Like, and so that was his first kill, and then his second kill was the mother or the lady.
Mm-hmm.
The kid had a grenade.
Yeah.
He had like a grenade in the hand, and he didn't want to do it at first, but he had no choice. It sounds bad to say. And it sounds cruel, and that's tough.
Mm-hmm.
There's one thing I gotta say is we don't understand the trauma
correct
that the veterans deal with, and this movie goes deep into it actually about what he had to go through, even when he came back when he was in the war. He comes back, how he was there but wasn't there for his family. That makes sense. Like he loved his family, but since he was more into like the war. He was just thinking more about war and thinking about the things that he did in war.
Mm-hmm.
And that happens a lot, actually, for vets, and we don't understand that because, we never been into, like, the Army, Navy, right. Marines, wherever you want, whatever group you want to say. And it's just, like I said, it's just crazy because when you look at it, like, you're like, wow, it's just like, the movie was great. Bradley Cooper, he did a great job.
Mm-hmm.
All the cast members were great.
Yeah, what's interesting with whenever I watch it, I always keep thinking, it's like, how come they didn't get Chris Pratt? Because I've seen pictures of Chris Kyle, and he looks very much like Chris Pratt, like build, hair, and everything. And I think that Chris Pratt would have done a good job, but I think Bradley Cooper just felt so invested in the project. And I think because he was so passionate of the project, Chris Kyle's father trusted him and the director and Clint Eastwood as the folks that that's the thing I forgot, that Clint Eastwood was the person who directed it. Yeah. Chris Kyle himself said, if there was ever going to be a movie that was made about me, I want him to direct it. And so that was a pretty cool thing that he did. Great points, Matt. And the fact that he goes not only on one tour, he goes on four total tours. I forget how long a tour is, but I think what they said in the movies, that's more than 1,000 days total. Imagine that. That's 1,000 days. That's more like almost 3 years, more than 3 years, maybe just over 3 years worth of being out of country, away from your family, and you're just constantly exposed to war. I like what you were saying about the hard choices, and I think that's so true, because a lot of times when we look at veterans, we're just like, oh, look, yeah, you fought in a war. Thank you for fighting in a war for me. But I think the one thing that we don't thank veterans enough is they don't, like, the things that they see, the things that they had to do, we ourselves didn't have to see or else had to do.
And another thing, too, about the money I forgot to mention is, like, when I mean he wasn't there, like, he was there, but he wasn't. And the reason why he wasn't there was because he had a main goal and a main mission. So the first one was, there was this guy, his name's The Butcher, and he basically kills American soldiers. He,
no, not just Americans. So, the Butcher, he was an enforcer for Hamrati. He's the person who's like in charge of the AQI. That's the terrorist cell that's fighting them in Iraq.
So that was his first. The first goal was to kill and take down the Butcher. But then the second goal was there was a sniper. He Syrian? They said
he's a Syrian sniper.
He's a Syrian sniper. He was in the Olympics. He was like number 1. He won the gold medal, and they used him, to kill.
Yeah, he was
American soldiers, and so every time when Chris Kyle and his group was there. He was also there, the Syrian guy.
Mustafa.
And then the crazy thing, too, is that... Remember when I said Chris Kyle was called a legend? He was called a legend, and in the Middle East, they knew that, and they had a bounty on his head.
$100,000.
It was $100,000. Yeah. He was the one that had the most bounty on his head. And Mustafa will always will try to kill him.
The other thing,
he had a chance.
What was so crazy, too, about Mustafa is that he would make a mixtape of all of his kills, and he would send it to Chris Kyle.
Yeah, he would send it to Chris
Kyle. And that's the thing that just kind of triggers him too. I'm glad you mentioned Mustafa, because I think the other thing too that you'll notice when you look at all 4 of the different tours is that slow progression in the way this person's thinking. Like when you look at Chris Kyle in the beginning of his first couple tours, he's more careful, more a little bit relaxed, and he's not as reckless. But then the hunt for Mustafa wasn't really more of a protecting Marines. Of course it was, but I think also part of it was driven by the fact that, hey, you know what, this guy killed one of my guys directly, and indirectly killed one of my other guys.
Yeah.
Because and he felt responsible for that, because he risks the lives of the Marines when they were in that warehouse.
Yeah.
Because he could have done it in a way so that way he didn't draw that much of attention. Of course, it's like you don't really know. I can't judge that. But that's just based on what the reactions that the other Marines were saying. It's like, you screwed us, legend, because he took the shot before there was an opportunity to kind of hide where he was. And so because of that caused all of these Iraqi insurgents to coming up at him. And so you can, because in the beginning they're careful, he's more, sometimes even like a little hesitant. And there's still moments of that, for example, there's that one point where he kills somebody, and then a kid tries to pick up the RPG.
Yeah.
And then he's like, put it down. And thankfully he puts it down. So there's that too. But that's the thing with war, in terms of, especially with veterans, is the fact that, again, we as civilians don't experience that.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that we should thank our veterans for. When I talked to my dad about it, and this is interesting, a lady, goodness, I forgot her name. Her son died in Iraq or Afghanistan because of an IED. And then she asked me, do you come from a military family? He goes, yes, I do, ma'am. The only thing is that my father, he's not American military, but he did fight in the Philippine Army. And he's like, it's Veterans Day for him too. And I was like, ma'am, thank you for that. And she goes, Mrs. Such and Such, tell her that I wished him a happy Veterans Day. And then that's so true, because there's a lot of Veterans Day, I think, is for everyone. Every veteran, not just American veterans. We celebrate it because I think it's the end of World War I. Armistice Day is November 11th. But I think any soldier that served in your place deserves your salute. And as we're discussing here, it shows that they've gone through so much that we won't have to experience that. If I can touch on something real quick, was the parallels. The thing that when you were talking about how he wasn't all there, because it seems that there were so many different things that would remind him of the war. Like one of my favorite scenes. It's actually probably my favorite scene in the entire movie. It's after he fights after he fights his first encounter with the Butcher. Because his first encounter with the Butcher was resulted in the death of one of the Iraqi informants. And the thing with the Butcher is he kills people with a drill. And so the missions failed. Unfortunately, the informant's son and the informant himself are both killed because of it. And that ends his first particular tour, and he's home, and he's there with his son. Yeah. And then every single second, he hears the drill of the thing that takes the lug nuts out at the mechanic shop, and he's always flinching. And then throughout the other times he's home, he sees a van that looks exactly like the van that the insurgents would use, and so he's super quiet and super cautious. And then I think at the far end, because there's a lot of dogs that attack in the place where he was, his own dog attacks his own son. Well, playfully attacks his own son, and then all of a sudden he just freaks out.
I was thinking about that one actually when he freaked out.
And so there's always these particular parallels that you see. But
before I forget, we also got to look at it too. What sometimes vets' wife has to deal with, or family.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because at that same time too, because his wife was like, "You're here, but you're not here."
Yeah, Tara.
And she was always trying to get him to stop going to the war. Mm-hmm. And there were times where he called her when he was getting shot at.
Yeah, in the middle of everything,
middle of
right?
Fire, and that scares her. And
when she's pregnant.
So that brings a lot of trauma too, and she was trying to get him to stop, and she's been saying like this was her logic, yes. which I understand. She was like, "You've done enough already.
Yeah, let someone else
serve. What else do you have to prove?"
Yeah,
but like I said, he was so into getting Mustafa and killing the Butcher
that he lost sight of that.
He lost his sight.
Because I think, but the other side of it too, and Chris Kyle does say this also. I think he the fact that he goes also prevents someone else from going, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's all from one particular mindset. That's, I think, the also responsibility that he has, is because the thing is, if you send some new guy to go there to try to replace him, because I've seen this in books, it's like when you send replacements rather than experienced veterans, it's sometimes more of a threat to that particular unit, because you get some guy that doesn't know what he's doing, and he goes out there and he ends up jeopardizing not only his own life but the life of the entire unit. That's also something kind of dangerous. That's just my way of one way of thinking at it. But also the other side too is like maybe he's just so shocked by it that that's something that, because that's the thing too. It's like he's good at it. He's extremely good at it, and so sometimes when you're really good at something, it's like it's probably feels like it's hard to give up.
Yeah.
The best line, the thing that one of the guys that dies, Mark, he says something there that's very interesting when he's talking about how war is like. Mm-hmm. He said war was like touching an electric fence. It puts like a surge of power in you. But then it's also, there's some moments where it's really hard for you to let go, but it's really shocking you. There's that power, that surge of it, but it's really doing more damage to you than it should. So yeah, that's something that, but the civilian, the civilian casualty, meaning like the effect that it has on your family. I think that's one of the things with my mom. She's like, she didn't want my dad to re-enlist for another, not re-enlist, but to be reassigned again to the combat, because she didn't want, she said, her words, she didn't want to die a widow. Okay. And so that's the fear that I think that, and you're absolutely right, man.
Because there's that one scene where she has her, was it the second kid?
Yeah.
It was the first or second, but she had the baby in her hand, and she goes,
the daughter, right?
I don't know if it was the daughter, but she goes, "You have to come back."
Yeah.
And he was like, he goes, "What?"
And she's like, "I'm making memories on my own.
I'm making memories on my own. You have to come back."
Yeah.
And he goes, "What?" And so then she takes the baby, puts it in her hand, puts it in his hands, and she says, "You have to come back to us.
Yeah.
You can't die." And I'm just like, see, like, I'm like, okay, I could see where she's coming from because, it has to be tough. And then there's another thing too. Is like, so we're gonna go to. I guess I'll go to the part where can I go to when he actually got Mustafa down.
Oh yeah, no, go for it.
So one thing I think was crazy was that Mustafa was like I think 2,000 miles away or something like that.
That was like about a mile.
Like he was so far away that it's like you would think it's
almost impossible. Yeah,
impossible. And he saw him, but it was impossible to get that shot.
Mm-hmm.
He took the shot and he got him. Once he got the shot, the first thing he does,
he calls his
wife and says,
"Baby, I'm ready to come home.
I'm ready to come home." So that's when you realize his mission was to kill Mustafa.
Yeah,
and then like
because he wanted to make sure that the guy that killed his buddies suffered for the thing that he did wrong, and plus also that was the mission too. Not just to kill him for the sake of Mark and Biggles. Those are the two guys that died because part of it is he's also responsible for it. Like Biggles dies because he said we need to go up there and try to find him. That was his call. And then when they went to go back to try to hit him again, that's when Mark dies. So both of those calls, both of his two buddies, they were killed because of his own, because that's his responsibility. Yeah. So and it wasn't like because of one, it was able to. It made some headway. It didn't really do that. Like there was this one scene in Band of Brothers. Which have you ever seen Band of Brothers?
I've never seen.
We got to do a show on Band of Brothers. You'll like it. I think it's. I thought it was the one I was actually even thinking we'd discuss for today. But there was one, and it's the harsh reality of it. One guy dies, but in the wake of him, that one guy dying, they were able to inflict a lot of casualties on the Germans. And so the commanding officer said, that's worth Dukeman. The name of the soldier that died was Dukeman. But in the result of Dukeman's sacrifice, they were able to, take a lot of German prisoners. They gained ground. But what was sad with Biggles and Mark, it's like there was no progress made. It's like their deaths didn't really mean anything. Yeah. It just kind of, I think that's what the heaviness of what it gave on Chris Kyle as well.
And then another thing is like, which one was it that wrote the letter?
That was Mark.
Mark, right? He wrote the letter. And what Chris said was he's like, the war didn't kill him. The letter killed him.
Honestly,
and it just shows you like his mindset was
really war.
And he wanted to keep going back. Even when he came back after he killed Mustafa, it was kind of still a little bit hard for him.
Yeah. And
so he had to go to a therapist, was it?
Yeah, and then that goes into the other aspect of it that's very important. The therapist was explaining to him that you can use your influence, your stature as the legend to help other people and I think that's really what helped him heal. He was helping other vets to recuperate. Like he's helping the bigger Marine because he lost both of his legs. It's funny. He's like, "How come you keep doing this with us, man?" He goes, "Well, I heard you had a boot collection. And the vet lost both of his legs, and he's like, I heard you had a boot collection, so I wanted to see if we were the same size." But then he asked, "It's like, well, no, seriously, legend, why do you do this?" And he says, "Well, we're all soldiers. We all got to look out for each other." And I think that's what, after he says that line, that goes to show that, hey, you know what, I really want to help. And what was good was that you did see it. Like you could see that he's now starting to readjust, decompress, and start to adjust to civilian life. Yeah. But here's the great irony.
Yeah,
this was the great irony when I was watching this movie. And what was sad was that this happened
in real life.
And while the movie was being shot. Yeah, it was so sad. So in the same vein of trying to help veterans, Chris Kyle, this is at the very end of the movie before they actually show the footage of his funeral. He is not killed by an Iraqi insurgent. He is not killed by Syrian snipers. He is sadly killed by a veteran he is trying to help. That really grips me two ways. It grips me two ways because it shows you just how much veterans really need our help. Because again, the thing that veterans go through, and me trying to discuss this is, I even feel like I have no right and I don't have the authority to discuss this because I've never been in war. But the things that they've experienced and the things that they had to go through, the things that they've done, the things that they've seen, it causes a huge toll on them. And some can adjust to civilian life, some can, and some don't. But all of them have to live with a lot of the things that they've seen. And that again, we've said it before throughout this podcast. I'm going to say it again. It's the thing that we really need to thank our veterans for, because they endured what they saw, the things that we didn't have to see. Yeah, defending freedoms, of course, is one of the things we always have to thank them for. But the fact that we don't have to experience that we were freed from having to deal with that, that's also something that you have to be thankful for, to be honest. So to wrap this up, because I think we've said pretty much what we need to say in terms of it. Veterans Day, in my opinion, is something that you should just do every day. If you see a guy, and I know that there exists like the fallen valor folks, the guys that pretend to be a military officer, and there's some travesties in terms of that. Like there's this one lady that pretended to be a former Marine to get benefits, but she wasn't even an enlisted person at all. Just pretended to be. And so I'm also for the Stolen Valor program, where guys are trying to point out folks that don't deserve to have that, especially if they never served or were enlisted people at all. So yeah, that's just a caveat. But if there's somebody there that has that hat that's either a Vietnam veteran. Sadly, one group of veterans that are probably almost close to gone are World War II veterans. There's fewer and fewer and fewer World War II veterans because a lot of them are in their, like, if they're still alive today, they're in their 90s.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm seeing Vietnam vets that are looking much older. But I don't care what war they fought in, where they served, how they served, what branch that they served. A veteran deserves your handshake. A veteran deserves your respect. Because again, just as Matt said, just as I've said, they've done something that you won't have to do. And in that same vein, you also have to give props to all of the folks that are enlisted, because then those same people, should something happen again, they're the ones that are going to go and do that for you, unless you yourself volunteer. Honestly, yeah, if we were called and there's a draft and they ask for volunteers, I will volunteer. I don't know how effective I'll be, but if it's needed, I'll go. But then you also have to remember that there's also folks that are out there already, and they also deserve your respect.
Yeah, I think, like I said, we take it for granted. We see lots of vets now homeless, not being taken care of. It's sad. It really is sad.
It is sad.
It's sad to see sometimes. And to your point with the Chris Kyle, with that vet, what I read was that he was also dealing with trauma. Mm-hmm. And so that's basically what caused him to kill Chris Kyle. So at the end of the day, it's just like vets, they deal with trauma. Even when they're done with the war, they deal with trauma. There was another movie, Unbroken.
Yes, yeah.
Unbroken is another one where he was Italian, right? The guy, he was the Italian track runner. And, he dealt with the Italian, what's his name? I'm trying to remember his name. We have to look it up because I can't. It's isn't it like Saporino or something like that? Is it like Louis?
Yeah.
Is it? What's his name? Hold on one moment. We're trying to get his name. I always forget.
Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry, Louis Zamperini.
Oh, Louis Zamperini.
Yeah.
So he had to go to war, and this was during I think World War II, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pacific
War, and he got enlisted, and then like he got captured, and he went to a Japanese
POW camp.
And they treated him like crazy. What I mean crazy, like they did everything to try to break him, try to, they have him race some of their track runners, and if he wins, he'll get beat up. If he loses, he gets beat up. There was this one guy specifically named the Birdman that would torture him, and he, when the war ended, they took him away. He got home and he was dealing with a lot of trauma. He started drinking heavily. I think it was his marriage was on the close to getting ruined. He goes to church, he gets saved, and next thing you know, like all those war generals, all those people that treat him bad in Japan, he goes to them, forgave them, and gave them the gospel. So it's just like, just giving you a perspective that like these vets, they do deal with trauma. It doesn't matter if they're American, Filipino, whatever vets, they all deal with trauma.
Right. And and I think that it's always important to make sure that, thankfully, I was looking at it, and the budget for the VA administration, and this was actually good for me. I was happy to see this. But the thing that I'm hoping for that it is properly administered is that there's the budget for the VA budget is $382.38 billion. That's good. I'm glad to see that. But what I'm hoping for is that that's getting dispersed and utilized effectively. Because as we've learned and as we can see, they do need that care. They do need that, and our support. I think the least we can do as civilians is to give them that support that they need.
It's like I always say, though. It's like, this is how I always say it. And like, it's no disrespect to athletes, no disrespect to basketball players, no disrespect to football players. But I always feel like veterans should be getting paid more than that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Vets should be getting paid more than like 100 million, 200 million.
Yeah.
That's just me being honest, because they're serving for your country.
Absolutely.
But like I said,
100%.
That's not how it works. Hopefully in the future we can see vets getting paid a lot better, getting treated a lot better. And just if I can give you one advice, just don't take it for granted.
Yep.
If you have someone who was in the Army, who was in the Marines, who fought in a war, and it's Veterans Day, give them a hug. Tell them that you love them. Tell them thank you for your service.
Yep.
And you should do that every day, almost every day, but just don't take them for granted.
Right. I guess the parting thought that I want, the parting scene that really really gets me is again that truck scene, because the truck scene, what was very touching there was another vet goes to Chris Kyle's son, and he says, "Son, your father is a hero, and it's because of your father that I get to go home to my daughter today." And so that's just an example of the kind of sacrifice and the kind of service that that the vets do. The one thing also that I just wanted to say is that just because you have watched a ton of war movies, just because you are a World War II historian, or you've played Call of Duty a gajillion times, we as civilians will never, ever, 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 ever understand what they went through. So just because we see these things and know these things, we don't know squat. We don't know squat. They do. They've seen horrors beyond whatever. That's indescribable. That's something that they have to carry with them sometimes every day. And because they have to bear that particular burden, once again, our veterans deserve our respect. That's all we got for this week. We hope that you enjoyed this review. Once again, we thank our veterans for their service, whichever branch you serve or where you serve. We don't know you, but we definitely love you that you've done that for us. So we just wanted to wish you all a happy Veterans Day, even though it's not, most of you might be watching this post Veterans Day. But once again, thank you for your service once again. Just as we say every week, we don't know you, but we love you, and there's a God above that does. I'm PB.
And I'm Cashew.
Peace out, PB Cashewville.